students, and I could give a plant tour and talk a little bit about myself and how I got from where I was to where I am today. And I said, sure, we could do that. And we talked about it was going to be sometime in the spring. And so maybe we'd have a planning meeting a few months later and discuss the details. Well, that meeting happened in the middle of December. And so before we started to talk about the field trip, Sarah asked me if we could talk about something off topic for a minute. She told me that Huddle was losing a major grant this year. She had to find a way to make up that money. 42% of their operating expenses this grant amounted to. And she wanted to run a benefit idea by me. She talked to me about this dinner tonight. She told me that she was going to offer some corporate sponsorship opportunities to local businesses. And she also talked about these 4 keynote speakers that she had in mind, that she had signed, I should say. So one was Sarah Bolton, president of the College of Wooster. Then there was Sarah Clapper, 2017 Miss Ohio, and Gerard Cherry, 3-time Super Bowl champion with New England Patriots. Pretty impressive, right? And then I said, well, wait a minute, that's only 3. And she grinned at me and said, well, I haven't asked the 4th one yet. She said, I was hoping to invite a successful business person from a local business to speak. And I thought she was going to ask me for recommendations. So obviously I agreed to do that.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I did want to wear my favorite colors in case anybody forgot what they are. It's an honor to be here at Huddle and to have a chance to be a part of this incredibly important project. I was asked to talk a little bit about how I came to be where I am today, and mentorship really does have a lot to do with that. I grew up in a wonderful community, in a family who was really interested in helping me do what I wanted to do and be what I wanted to be. But I was also kind of an unusual kid. And in particular, I was kind of an unusual little girl. So for example, I was the only girl in my middle school who stayed after school all the time to do science experiments. And I was the only girl in my high school in the math club, riding that bus back and forth to math competitions, the only girl all the time. I was the only young woman at my college, Brown University, to be majoring in physics. I'm the only one in most of my classes. And when I got to graduate school in California, as you said, and started doing research, building the very cool lasers that were a lot of fun to build, when I went to conferences, in general, I was the only woman presenting and the only one, often the only one at the sessions that I was at. So advantages, in general, I was in places where there was never a line at the ladies' room. So that was kind of a feature. But challenges as well. Of course, that challenge of sometimes being the only one, that some of the young people that you support have that experience of feeling like they're the only one in a particular situation and wondering whether they belong. So what I would say about my own experience is that I was often the only one, but I was never alone. I was blessed to have mentors throughout my life who were really, really helpful. And some of them were people whom I recognized myself, and some of them were people who recognized something in me, for which I'll forever be thankful. So I'm going to start back in middle school.
It's actually a direct message on Instagram almost exactly 1 year ago today. It said, because I couldn't bring it up, so I emailed it to myself, so that's what this is. And it says, Dear Miss Ohio, thank you for coming to my school today. What you said really left an impact on me. I'm not usually very open about my feelings, and I typically don't share my struggles with anyone. But I felt like sharing this with you. Your story really helped me understand why I've been so depressed lately. In the past year, I've thought about committing suicide more times than I could count. I believed that people would miss what I did more than they would miss who I was. Thank you for sharing your story and helping me understand where my true value comes from. I honestly believed your story saved me today. Now, if you asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, when I was a kid, it most definitely would not have been Miss Ohio. exactly would have been, I wanted to be an Olympic gymnast, hence the monkey bars. I began gymnastics at the age of 2, and gymnastics quickly became my world. It became the thing that gave me the greatest joy in life and brought me the most happiness. And with gymnastics, it brought me a lot of mentors, because by definition, a mentor is someone who is an expert in their field, and he can be classified as a counselor, an advisor, or a coach. However, I would be amiss if I missed the opportunity to not talk about the fact that not every mentor had a positive impact on my life. I'll never forget the night that one of my most trusted mentors dropped a bomb on my life. My mother was standing in the kitchen when she received a phone call, and instantly I could tell that there was something wrong. As a child who was 10 years old, I could tell that the tears coming down her face weren't like normal tears. And I wouldn't find out until later that it was because they were laced with anger. It was at that time that my assistant coach had called to inform her that our head coach had been arrested and was later convicted for hiding a video camera in the bathroom.
Major impact on my life. I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you see the stats: 3-time Super Bowl champion and things of that nature, master's degree, BA in political science. But these people I'm going to speak about play a major role in all of that. Because I come from a background in which I was the first person in my family to go to college, let alone graduate. Now, I don't say that to brag or boast, but I came from a background in which it was very harsh. I grew up in an area in North Carolina called Brook Hill. In Brook Hill, if you go to Charlotte, North Carolina to this day, there's a gigantic sign that says, "Welcome to Brook Hill, Charlotte's first housing development." So basically, Charlotte, North Carolina's first ghetto, hood, however you want to qualify it. Now, the beautiful thing about this story to me, hopefully you feel the same, we're talking in the 70s, mid-70s. America's still going through a transition at that time with getting used to the idea of desegregation and what that entails. And this couple whose name I forgot, give me a break because I was only 5 years old, they were walking around our neighborhood and they were gathering kids together for a Sunday Bible study, or Sunday school rather. And they went to my house, spoke with my mother and my grandmother, and asked, was it okay for me to go to Sunday school with them? And mind you, this is still the 70s. This is the South. Now, it's not Alabama, Mississippi South, but it is the South. And they had the courage to, one, walk through an all-black neighborhood, gather kids up, and meet in a park setting for Sunday school. So we did that for a few weeks, from what I do recall. And then they had us fill out permission slips and give them to our parents, asking them if it was okay for us to go to North Carolina State for a trip. Now this trip to North Carolina State that they orchestrated was on a Sunday. There was no school in session or anything like that. It was just a simple trip outside the neighborhood. And up to that point, I don't think I'd ever been outside my neighborhood. So we go on a trip to North Carolina State, which is in Raleigh, which is a ways away from Charlotte. Now, there was no school, but the thing that impressed me most was that we went to the cafeteria, and I saw all types of cereal. And I'm saying to myself, if this is what college is like, you can eat as much cereal as you want to eat, you can keep going back and forth, I want to go to college.